Here's your host, Alex Garrett.
All right. As promised, Ariel Hoops is on my podcast to discuss last night's incredible win. Of course, we all wanted a game 5, but Knicks in 6 rhymes. So I guess that's what they wanted, right, Ariel? What a game last night. And, Brunson is basically the man of New York, but Josh Hart, as clutch as ever once again. I mean, I know he's had some issues here and there, but let's start with Josh. Last year he was carrying the team, and this year, what a 3 last night. And that's not being talked about as much, I feel like, anyway.
No, it's not, man. And shout out to Josh Hart, man. This guy has been the glue guy all season. He's had some ups and downs, like every player, like even superstars go through this, MVP caliber players. So obviously Josh Hart is no exemption to that. But him hitting that crucial 3-pointer in that fourth quarter, which basically decided that game, just shows you the testament of Josh Starks. I call him Josh Starks for a reason, because when he hits those timely 3-pointers like that, that's the nickname he deserves, because he hustles and he does all the little things you need, man. And what you see with Josh Hart is that what he does in the game doesn't show up on the stat sheet, because he rebounds at a high level, has a high IQ and a knack for the ball when it's coming off the rim to be in the right spots. And he was just hustling, diving everywhere. I mean, this guy was all over the place, man, and just giving you that 90s Knicks vibe, because just all the grit and grind that they were doing last night. And another guy that I want to give a shout out to for last night's game was OG Anunoby. Man, that dunk that when he drove and Embiid kind of like wanted to contest it, but then went to the side towards the end and he dunked it on him. That thing got me out. That dunk got me out of my seat, man. That was kind of like, as a kid, seeing John Starks dunk over Michael Jordan and Horace Grant, because it gave me that type of energy, and it showed this is the reason why we traded the 2 kids for OG Anunoby, because he was another guy that hit a couple of timely shots for us and got it going yesterday. And you could see the Knicks were running a lot more sets for OG, and I love that, man.
Let's talk about OG, because as you know, when we traded Barrett, I was messaging you, oh my God, how are they doing this? But then Anunoby has found himself a role in this team right from when he got traded. I mean, another guy that's kind of flew under the radar. Yes, he's been injured on and off, but the point is he helped carry that team during a stretch, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, because there was a lot of times during that game, especially when we blew that 22-point lead. You could see OG Anunoby, man, just getting back into rhythm. And honestly, man, I think he has a little chip on his shoulder with Embiid. It seemed like every time he took it to the hole, he wanted to drive on him, and he took it in with gusto, man. You could see the energy, man, the stare down. And I haven't seen that type of passion from OG's usually an even kill guy, but he seemed to have a little distaste for Joel Embiid, and I like that as a New Yorker, because we all know, man, Joel Embiid, a great MVP caliber player he is. The ton of excuses that people are making for him when the guy was putting up very good numbers the whole series is beyond me. But, just seeing OG give that type of energy towards Embiid, their MVP caliber player in their own home court, and us taking care of business and beating them in Philly, that shows you the heart and the grit, man, of this team, man. And shout out to Dante DiVincenzo, too, because a lot of people wrote him off for a couple of games. He was a little off, but people forget what he did game 2, and he stepped up from the beginning out the gate, man. You could tell when that first shot went up and that went in, that confidence. And anybody who's played basketball knows that, basketball is a game of confidence, especially me, because I played it a lot. And when your shot's not falling, man, it could seem like nothing can go right. But all you need sometimes just that one shot to go in. And so you can see once that left his hands, a lot of times, man, he was doing a lot of orchestrating too, passing and hitting guys in their right spots, man. Shout out to Dante DiVincenzo, man, for stepping up. We needed him.
All right. One other thing, and I'm going to tie in Jalen here because obviously Villanova, shout out to Mr. Jay Wright, who has mentored all these people, all these guys who are now on the Knicks. I mean, we have a Villanova starting 4 or 5, right? And I think Jay Wright is definitely a big credit. Look at what he's done. Look what he's brought to New York with these guys.
No, absolutely, man. Shout out to Jay Wright, too, because we all know Nova Knicks started off as a joke, saying basically like they only bring in Josh's friends. But I always tell people this, man, I said this since the summer. And even before when we traded for Josh Hart last year, I said they're not bringing in guys just because they're Jalen Brunson's friend. They're bringing in guys because these guys are winners. They're high IQ players, and they're damn good basketball players, man, at the end of the day. And a lot of things that these guys do, especially with Josh Hart and Dante, you know what Dante gets. Dante is always like, everybody talks about his shooting and, his marksmanship, but there's a lot of things that Dante does on the defensive end. He's an off-ball pass. He gets in the passing lanes. He's another hustle guy that dives all over the floor, goes after loose balls. And those are things that, that go unseen and things that people don't talk about. These are high character, high IQ guys. Like you said, man, Nova Nixon, shout out to Jay Wright. And Jalen Brunson is, who he is, a monster and putting up video game numbers. And he stepped up in the right moments too, man. Hit a lot of big shots. And this is the reason why he's the A1, unlike what Becky Hammond said.
He also led the team in assists. And I got to say, a guy can lead a team with his points, but if you can also do those bounce passes to your teammates and rely on them like Brunson does and has all year, that's a leader right there. He's not only shooting, he's passing it to the guys he knows can get the job done. I mean, talk about that part of it too. Don't talk about the assist part. I like that part of Jalen's game.
Jalen Brunson was finding guys in his right spots, and you could see that he was he made a couple of questionable decisions down the stretch, but he made up for it with the baskets and hitting guys in the right spot, man, towards the end. And shout out to Jalen Brunson, man. I mean, that guy is just the A1, and he's making all these analysis eat their words, man, because he basically, he knocked out another MVP candidate in their own home court, and he was a big part of it, man. Not the only part, but a big part of it. And shout out to JB, man, the burner.
All right. Well, one other thought I thought was down the stretch here, and obviously everybody got on Mitchell Robinson for the foul in Game 5, but to let Embiid score, knowing you're up by 3 and not fouling him, I thought that was a key play. And I know he just let the bucket in, but, the Knicks showed discipline those last 10 seconds, and that's got to give a shout out too.
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, these guys executed down the stretch. And another thing was a knack that a lot of people didn't talk about, especially with this game, was that the Knicks hit their free throws down the stretch. And that was their acronym, where they were missing a lot of those late game free throws that ended up costing them in a lot of these games. And they hit their free throws. And I always say, man, you hit your free throws and you rebound, you win the glass game, there's a very high chance you win the basketball game. And that's exactly what happened.
Free throws make a difference. We saw that Tuesday night also. All right, let me ask you this, because I always love to talk about your Twitter and how you got a lot of people in your sphere. What can people look forward to, Ari, on your Twitter, Ari_hoops84 this round?
Yeah, this round I'm actually I'm starting a new Knicks podcast called Knicks in 5. I'm dropping an episode later this afternoon. I'm going to talk about the game in less than 5 minutes. And obviously, you guys know I do the Go School Retro NBA. I got a tribute coming. I actually finished it. I'm just editing it right now as I speak. I'm going to be dropping that this afternoon. It's Ronnie Cycli, if you guys don't know, the spin doctor. He was the first Lebanese basketball player to ever play in the NBA. And he was a very good low post center, a very good center back in the days in the 90s with Shaq, Hakeem, and Ewing. And he's very underrated. I'm going to give him a lot of his flowers. Former Miami Heat, Orlando Magic Warrior.
Well, if I can make a request for your retro series, you got to highlight the 90s Pacers Knicks leading into this, because I tell you what, I remember there were times I was excited with that series and then crushed. I mean, it really went either way each night against the Pacers, didn't it?
Oh, definitely, man. I'm going to, what's crazy? I was thinking about that. Actually, what I'm going to do, because I have a Michael Ray Richardson tribute that I'm going to post up too. He follows me, and I'm going to give him his flowers. But those 90s, that's basically one of the times where I grew up being a Knicks fan, what made me be such a diehard Knicks fan was the Knicks versus Bulls and the Knicks versus Pacers, because I remember Rick Smits, and I'm definitely going to touch on that, because Rick Smits and Patrick Ewing going at it, the Duncan Dutchman, Reggie Miller, still stealing that game from us when we choked late down the stretch, the Ewing finger roll, us losing that game and then winning and actually ending that series. After that debacle, it kind of reminds me of what happened last night, man. It's not in the same stratosphere, but man, it feels good to beat a team that you hate, man, because I can't stand Philly and I just don't like them. I hate every team in Philly, and to see them beat them in their home court and watching their fans go home disappointed, I loved it, man. Team is great.
All right, speaking of fan base, I thought, and I think about this with Carolina too, and their series with the Rangers upcoming, what cowards it is to not want opposing teams in there. I mean, where did that trend begin? These the culture is you have opposing teams and you have fans of the opposing teams and you're building. I mean, the Sixers look like cowards this week, I thought anyway, with all of that promotion going on.
Yeah, that was awful, and it's terrible for revenue share, and just revenue in itself. Because I go to Knicks games and I always see fans of other teams, and that never bothers me, man. I actually I enjoy the back and forth, the playful banter, as long as it doesn't get disrespectful. But I seen there was a video posted where a Knicks fan got punched in the face. Wasn't too crazy about that, but I'm not surprised because it's Philly, and there's a reason why Veterans Stadium had a jail downstairs, because there's a lot of those fans can be very unruly. And then I seen the news reporter actually telling people in a roundabout way to go do what they got to do. And I just thought that Philly, just to me, I never liked Philly, never been a fan of it. Aside from my fandom for Allen Iverson, but that's more so because I was a big Hoyer fan and I followed him in his college years. He just ended up playing for Philly, but I didn't like the statue that they gave him. I thought he deserved a bigger one than that. I thought it was just disrespectful, but I can't stand Philly. So I
love the city. Ironically, I love the history of the city, but I tell you, when it comes to the teams, I don't respect the Eagles and the Sixers more so than the other two teams. I'll put it that way. Now, you mentioned other teams, and I'm just thinking about the whole first round, and we did see a couple of moments this round that, LeBron out in the West and Golden State not even making it. You look at the West right now, and we can talk about what happened with the Bucks and their disaster, but I want to start with the West for a second if I can, because it's not going to be a normal kind of conference. You're not going to have LeBrons or the Currys, and that's going to change things, isn't it, down the stretch here?
Oh, absolutely, because now the matchup I'm looking forward to out West is I want to see that Ant-Man and Jokic. I want to see that Nuggets and Minnesota series is going to be phenomenal out West. I really can't wait for that. I think the Clippers is going to be hard for them to overcome, especially with Kawhi out. But I wouldn't necessarily write them off just yet. I think they can actually take them to 7. Even still, I never really fully invested. Or I know the Mavericks are a good team, but I just never really fully bought into them. I don't know what it is. I'm not really a big Mavericks guy. I don't think that they're a serious threat out West. I still had Denver coming out, out West over Minnesota. But anything can happen, man. I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota steals that series either. So that's one of the matchups I'm looking forward to, because I love Anthony Edwards is a great, man.
And the Nuggets, of course, trying to repeat. It's going to be a very interesting thing because they look pretty strong. I got to say that. And then in the East, is it okay to laugh a little bit that Doc Rivers is out again in the first round? I just find that comical because he could not get it done in Philly. He can't get it done with the Bucks. And the Bucks look stupid. They make this change with a winning record and end up in a first-round exit. I mean, what are they thinking in Milwaukee right now?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I know Doc Rivers I never really cared for him as a coach, but I think obviously not having Giannis obviously impacted them, and then Lillard was hobbling, but they knew what they traded for. And I always say, man, sometimes you can't break something if it doesn't need to be fixed, because I think I said it this summer. A lot of people on Knicks Twitter went at me. I told them that trading Drew Holiday was a mistake, and I feel like I'm gonna still stick to that. I think Drew Holiday was a big piece in that Bucks team that a lot of people didn't really give credit for. I know they wanted to appease Giannis because I know they heard the doorsteps that he wanted out eventually if they don't change. But I just think that they broke something that was good, man. I don't know if they can bounce back from that. I feel like Damian Lillard's getting up there in age, and the injuries are really getting to him now. I just don't see a run. I think they're the oldest team in the NBA, if I'm not mistaken. And it's not going to get any better. And then Middleton looks a shell of himself, and he's going through a lot of injury history the last few years. I don't see it getting any better in Milwaukee. And Doc Rivers, I think, eventually would be let go.
Yeah, I don't know. I know there was a tough card to deal with Middleton, Lillard, and Giannis not 100% healthy. And actually, the two of them were out of games 5 and 6. Ariel, I also like to talk about people's human side, right? We all see you on Twitter, but you're a human being. So tell us what you do when you're not on Twitter. What's your life like for those that follow you that may not know the whole story of Ariel? Like, tell us a little bit about your life, but off of Twitter also.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, I post a lot of stuff on Twitter. Obviously, like more sports, but I'm a mental health advocate. If you guys don't know, I suffer from ADHD, a low form of it, and anxiety. So I'm big on that, on mental health, taking care of mental health for men and women. And I'm also a proud Christian. I got baptized over the summer, so I'm very big on religion now. It's got me through a lot of trials and tribulations in life, and God is good all the time, man. And I'm a stickler for that. And I also do a lot of stuff for the community. I do church backpack giveaways during the summer with my church. I'm very active in the church and the community in Garfield, New Jersey, if you guys don't know. So I'm a big mental health advocate, and I just love giving back to the community. It's one of my things, giving back and not expecting to receive anything in return. I don't post a lot of it because I don't want kudos. I don't want pats on the back. I love giving back to people because you never know what people are suffering in silence.
It's amazing to have you on. We got to have a bigger discussion because it is Mental Health Awareness Month. So I'm sure you're going to be, working on that this whole month.
Yes, man. I go to therapy once every 2 weeks myself, and I encourage everyone and anyone who suffers from mental health to do that because.
Oh, I also meant you're going to work with
religion,
others to help them too through the whole month, as always, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, it's true, and that's the reason why I do what I do, because you need it. It's very therapeutic. Challenges can get you adversities, but I never want anybody to feel like there's no one that wants to listen to them and hear them. And I always tell people this, man. My DMs are always open, even if you don't want to talk about sports. You want to talk about life, man, and just anything. I like that type of stuff.
I could tell you're a very well-rounded guy, and I like always talking to you, man. So, and always
Likewise.
love the chat, the Twitter love we got on. We share each other's posts. I love that too. So it's good stuff. It's a good community that you've created there, Ariel, and kudos to that.
No, likewise to you, man. I've always even since we met at the NBA draft night, man. I always knew that we was gonna always connect. Ever since then, when you interviewed me outside, real quick. But I like what you do. I always wanted to do podcasts with you. It's pretty cool, man. Hopping on as a guest and talking to you time to time, and at DMs as well.
One last thing. 30 years later, this is the most hopeful I felt the city has been. Well, maybe it's just because I'm hopeful. 30 years later, are you feeling the same hope? I mean, there's just a lot going on, and I don't want to bruise the memories of a lot of Knicks fans right now, but I feel like this team will, I don't know how to say, they can recover from an Allen Houston Miss Tippin type of thing. Like, I don't think that's going to happen 30 years later. I feel like there's some magic here that maybe was missing 30 years ago. I don't know. It's just something different.
No, it is something different because the team is special. And this team actually could outperform them because it's sustainable what they're doing right now, because they have a mixture of youth, and they got all their draft picks if they want to add another piece, whoever that piece is. And we have movable contracts. There's not one bad contract on this team. And all these guys have contributed one way or another during the season and during the playoffs at some point. And another guy I want to shout out to, he didn't have it going a lot last night, but shout out to Deuce McBride, man, because he's another guy that hit a big shot in that fourth quarter too.
Deuce McBride has been a big part of the season overall, and he's led to it. And of course, at the helm, Tom Thibodeau with the Knicks, he's found that playoff recipe. I mean, the guy always got the Bulls to the playoffs, but he never really got them far in the playoffs. Now he's got either the different core or a different way he's managing leadership style, but something's changed for him too coming to New York, don't you think?
Yeah, I think he adapted. And I think he also he's made adjustments, man. A lot of people give the guy, a lot of stuff for not being an in-game coach and not making adjustments. And we could talk about the short man rotation, but the short man rotation is just because he's putting those guys that he trusts. And everybody needs to realize too, a lot. If you look around the league, now I'm not just talking about like present, I'm talking about past, that playoff rotations usually get shortened, especially in the playoffs. You see a lot of teams run usually their 8 best guys, sometimes 7. And I think that, Tibbs doing that, I mean, I don't feel like he's going to do that the whole playoffs, but I feel like he's going to put those 7 best guys that he trusts. So the guys got it done, and he made a lot of in-game adjustments. He righted the hot hands. and he let these guys do what they had to do, man. He put their faith and trust in them because at the end of the day, man, when you're a coach, you got to put the faith in your main guys, and you can't just go away from them when things go a little south because there's ups and downs in the playoffs, man. The Knicks are not exempt from it, and it clearly showed this series. But, we punched them in the mouth when we needed to, and we got the job done.
All right, Ariel, hopefully we can catch a watch party together this series or sometime during the playoffs. I feel like we're going to have a bit of a run here, and I like to say that in the springtime, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'll DM you, and we'll meet up. We'll meet up somewhere and watch, and we'll catch a game. I'll DM you and let you know details and stuff for sure.
Sounds great. Ariel DeJesus, Ari Hoops 84 on Alex Garrett Podcasting today. I love the quick turnaround, man. I texted you last night. Let's do a pod today, and here we are, right? So great reaction to Game 6 and the entire series, and let's get to the semis and see what happens next.
Yeah, let's go, man. My prediction. I had it all year. Knicks and Celtics, Eastern Conference Finals, man. And that's what I'm sticking to.
And the Knicks, they actually had a couple good games against the Celtics, which gives me hope in the playoffs. I know they say the playoffs are a different animal. With basketball, how they do in the regular season versus these teams do matter in the postseason, right?
Oh, absolutely, because I always felt like even since last year, before the OG trade, I think the Knicks match up very well with the Celtics. And the Celtics are not this team that everybody thinks that can't be beat because they have some issues over there too. I never really liked the fit with Mazzulla as a coach. I don't think he's the right coach for them. But and obviously Porzingis is a little bit banged up, which we all know as Knicks fans with the injuries with Porzingis and just his whole career. Even though he's been healthy for the most part for the last year and a half until recently. But the management that they were loading through him this year, I always felt like Porzingis, I didn't know if he could make it through a few playoff series. So I'm going to stick to that as well. I don't think he's going to make it healthy throughout the series.
Guy was a all-star and then has that horrible fall, gets injured under the hoop. I'll never forget it because he was like the golden boy for the Knicks at the time. I think he was even dating Jen Selter or something at the time. And then everything went to crap for him. So I don't know. He's actually had bad luck with him ever since that moment years ago, if you remember.
Yeah, I do. And I never. And then after that, the way he left just left a bad taste. I know his brother had a lot to do with it, but he got caught up in some allegations and sending cryptic messages towards the Knicks, and I just never really cared for him. That's why I never wanted the reunion that some Knicks fans wanted last summer with him coming back here. But you could tell he misses New York. But I really, he could stay over there. We got something going on special over here. And mind you, we're doing all this without our All-NBA player, Julius Randle. So let's not make the excuses that the Sixers were banged up. Listen, we're missing Julius Randle, an All-NBA 24, 10, and 5 guy. So don't.
We can go down the line. I mean, I can tell you the Knicks are doing it without Randle. The Yanks are, have a winning record without Cole, and the Rangers are doing well without Wheeler. I mean, it's amazing the step up some of these teams are doing without some of their big players. You're right about that.
Oh, absolutely, man. Shout out to Julius Randle, man. That's why I use the hashtag winning for Ju, because seeing him on the sidelines yesterday, and you could tell it hurts him because I was looking at his face and his body language yesterday when they put the camera on him. And you could tell he wants to be out there. But for him being there, supporting them, man, I love it.
Well, he'll be there all series, and I just hope to have this run continue and maybe make it to the Garden one of these games. I'm thinking of the conference finals. If we get to the conference finals, I'm definitely going to try and get to one of those because that's going to be when the heat's really there. That's going to be okay. We're here. We're in the conference finals. That's what I'm saving my money for. Let me put it that way.
Smart man.
But one step at a time, one game at a time, right? So,
exactly.
Ariel, thanks again, and we'll do this again soon. Maybe to recap the conference semifinals or a watch party. We'll see. One or the other. We'll definitely reconnect.
Yeah, for sure, Alex, man. God bless you.
God bless you, and thanks for joining Alex Garrett Podcast Network, Ariel. God bless you, man.
Likewise, man. Take care.
All right, well, let's take a quick break here on the Alex Garrett Podcast Network, and I want to give a shout-out to Caleb Vasquez Jr. Caleb is a very dedicated Fanatics Friday poster, okay? Today he posted with Jalen Brunson in honor of Knicks in 6, and Caleb actually won a Fanatics Friday prize. So if you are a Fanatics fan and want to win something from Fanatics, I would highly recommend you join Fanatics Friday hashtagging experience every Friday. And I'm going to do more of that podcasting for Fanatics Friday as well, see what else we can win here at the Alex Garrett Podcast Network. But congratulations to Knicks fan, Yankee fan, and all-around New York sports fan Caleb Vasquez Jr. You can follow him, actually, C_money 301. And if you buy any product from the link in the description below, I do earn a commission and it supports the Alex Garrett Podcast Network. So join in on Fanatics Friday every day.
Here's your host, Alex Garrett.
We continue today with round one coverage, right? The Knicks advancing after a Game 6 victory. Knicks in 6 came true. Thanks to Ariel Hoops for joining me. And now, Terminello's take, sharing the spotlight a little bit. But boy, I got 2 great guests today. And Lou, you, of course, have a great take every week. Thanks for joining me today.
Alex, always a pleasure. It's been an exciting week of sports in hockey and basketball. Locally, it's been exciting. And I think that the next round is going to be very much watch TV.
I want to point out a couple of things with you. First of all, the discipline the last 10 seconds is what we saw last night, but we didn't see it in Game 5. And I feel like that was a big adjustment to be that, disciplined, if you will, the last 10 seconds to not commit a foul against the Sixers after that big 3 by Josh Hart. I want to start there.
Well, I think for most of the series, and let's face it, this series was incredibly close. The combined score for the 6 games is only a 1-point difference. So all 6 games were tremendously competitive for 95% of the game. Yeah, the Knicks got off to a 33-11 lead last night. And there's some factors in the game of last night's game that we'll talk about. But the Knicks are a better coach team, pure and simple. I think their players are more coachable. And they have these coachable players like Miles McBride, Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, who was fantastic last night, not only hitting those 3-point shots, but defensively. I knew the guy was a good player. I knew the Knicks made a good signing when they signed him. I didn't think he was this good. Miles McBride hit a big 3 to put them ahead after they relinquished a 9-point lead in the last 2:48. But they kept their poise last night, like you said. And an underrated play that is not going to get, I don't think, a lot of action and a lot of credit, that Josh Hart hit the big 3 to win the game. And but he also made a spectacular catch when Brunson threw a fastball that he caught right at the baseline under the basket, or else that would have been a
step out of the baseline. He kept it in bounds, and then I believe he dribbled it out to either DiVincenzo or Hartenstein, right?
He did. That's what he did. But that was a heck of a catch by Josh Hart. I mean, I know we talked about it on past shows. Here's a guy who bounced around 4 teams in 5 years. DiVincenzo, 4 teams in 4 years. These guys are mainstays. And you scratch your head wondering, how could all these teams be wrong and miss on these guys? I know there's cap situations and they got to move guys to fit other guys in. But these are winning players. And you have to have winning players to build chemistry and to get where you are. Of course, the Knicks are led, and I'm happy to say that on this show, we early called it that Jalen Brunson doesn't get the credit that he deserves. We had him as a superstar early on. We questioned the fact why he wasn't a starter in the All-Star game. We have recently questioned the fact that why isn't he going to Paris for the U.S. Olympic team this summer? It is mind-boggling to me. This guy is so good. He's only 6'1". He's not a great athlete that's going to fly through the air or run from baseline to baseline in record time. But the guy knows how to play. The guy knows how to win. He's a little bit like a coach on the court. as I said, if I had a vote for MVP, yes, Nikola Jokic would be first. I'm not going to say I wouldn't vote for Jokic first, but Jalen Brunson would be my runner-up. And he better be for all first NBA. When that comes out in the next couple of weeks, if he is not all first team NBA, you talk about a travesty of justice. That is when it comes to these basketball honors. But the Knicks last night, I mean, they got off to a great start. They did. And they quickly gave it up. You know, Buddy Hield came off the bench and he hit those 17 points in the second period to put the Sixers ahead at halftime. The Sixers go up by 10. Where's Buddy Hield? He doesn't play at all in the third quarter. And Nick Nurse did coach a championship team, but a very, very strange that we don't see Buddy Hield again, who was 6 out of 9 from three-point range until the fourth quarter. So that was a head scratcher.
You know, I did get a chance to listen to Iron Eagle, and he thought the fact that Embiid fouled out with 20 seconds left, the most pivotal part of the season, was what mattered the most. And I agree with him. I like the way he broke down the last minute of the game there. I don't know if you agree or not, but
no, I agree. Now again, Joel Embiid the Knicks were ahead. They had to foul. So you don't, sometimes you don't have your choice of, the guy who's going to commit the foul. But yes, even for that last possession, not having Embiid on the court was key. Now, I'm going to say something about Embiid. I don't like some of his antics, his over-the-line antics on the court, but I could tell you one thing. The guy played his ass off on one leg, and the guy is a great shooter. I mean, he might be as good a long-range 7-foot center that we've ever seen, and he's not afraid to take it, whether it's from the corner, whether it's from the top of the key. He plays hard. He made some turnovers. I don't know if he ever played. He plays smart all the time. I don't know if that's on him or if that's just on the Sixers as a team. Even look at Josh Hart's game-winning field goal. The Knicks were more prepared. They wanted to get the ball out of Brunson's hands. They double-teamed Brunson when he was in that left corner. But you can't leave Josh Hart open. That wide open. He had an open jumper. Yes, I know he had hit a little bit of a skid in the middle of the series, but last night he had 16 points, 14 rebounds. You can't do it. So all those key things in a series as close as this, the Knicks won. The Knicks won the battle for all those loose balls. The Knicks played harder than the Sixers. The Knicks are a hard-nosed team. They're a tough-minded team. And all those little things that you don't see in the box score, Alex, all those things you don't see in the box score, the Knicks won all those little things, and that's why they won the series. I mean, it's as simple as that. And they had the best player on the court. Embiid wasn't the best player on the court. Yes, he's great. Yes, he's the reigning MVP. The best player on the court, the difference maker, the winning player, Jalen Brunson.
Can we also talk about the fact that he also led the team last night in assists? Now, everybody's always about the points. Oh my God, he made history, and the history he's put up for the Knicks this season alone and this postseason is incredible. But whenever I look at a star player, I look at his assist numbers, and he led the team in assists too, Lou. I mean, that's a big part of his game.
He has that quality that great point guards have. He makes everybody else on the team better. Now, again, the fact that he took, I don't know, what did he take, 32 shots or whatever he took in these games? Again, if he doesn't score, who's going to score? And who can guard him? Who can guard him? When he gets into the paint, he's 6'1", and he's still putting that little mid-range jump shot, that floater, and he's still, nobody's stopping him. Nobody's stopping him. So I don't know what this guy has to do to get recognized more. And again, he's playing in New York, and he's playing for the Knicks. And again, I think the media gives the Knicks a lot of leeway when they with their coverage. So it's not like the Knicks get bashed around a lot. And let's face it, this is the first time in 24 years that they've won back back-to-back first rounds in back-to-back seasons. So it's been a long time.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I think 99 they went to the finals, so maybe it's a good omen here. I don't know yet.
Maybe it is. And as we said, that we know that the East is wide open. I mean, the Celtics are by far and away the best team. And after their hiccup in Game 2 against Miami, they did what they were supposed to do. The Celtics bashed the Heat, and it's as a Heat team without their best player and without a couple of other players on their roster because of injury. They bashed them like they should. And but I'm still not 100% sold on the Celtics. Yes, on their talent I am. But, there's something that I think that they still have to show me. And they're going to play the winner of Cleveland, Orlando. Alex, that should be another, I don't want to say a layup. That's not fair. But that should be an easy series for the Celtics to win. Again, as I always say, is Cleveland or Orlando going to beat the Boston Celtics 4 times in a 7-game series? I would say no. I would say no. And
that's Jason Tatum saying we're going to beat their asses, right? No, just kidding.
Well,
I will say this: the Magic Cavaliers series is fascinating to me because, for those of you who don't know, and we covered this on the show, the Cavs specifically tanked that quarter to get the 4th seed, and they're still struggling. Can anybody make sense of that, Lou?
Well, again, when you play with when you play with the sports gods like that, it usually bites you in the butt. And they're up 3-2. This might be one of those home team series. Orlando might win tonight. Game 7, I guess, is on Sunday, and Cleveland might win at home. But neither one of these teams is going to go far. Yes, the Cavaliers have talent. Magic have talent. But again, is this an indictment on Donovan Mitchell? Yeah, I know he missed a couple of games, but everybody was going crazy about Donovan Mitchell. The Knicks are going to get him. The Nets are going to get him. I mean, when he was on Utah, he had some great games, but is he a difference maker? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. I think he's a great player, but
let me ask Knicks fans this: would they rather have Brunson or Donovan Mitchell? Right? That's the age-old question these days.
I'll tell you, and I'm not even a Knicks fan. Jalen Brunson, you have to have the point guard.
But in the moment, we all react to these things, not thinking about the bigger picture. And that's New York sports. I mean, there's a team in town now that boos Aaron Judge for going 0 for 4. So we are a very reactionary city, yet in the end, it all pays off. And I think Brunson, by the way, can we give a shout out to Leon Rose for what he's put together? And two guys behind the scenes, okay? Leon Rose and Jay Wright, because this is Nova's Knicks at this point. Those two have really helped the Knicks get where they are today. I truly believe it. Right, coaching these guys and Leon Rhodes putting them all together.
Well, I mean, you look at DiVincenzo and Hart and Brunson. They all played, and if you want to include Mikal Bridges down the road in Brooklyn, they all played 4 right. They all played the game the right way. They've all played on a championship teams of 2016 and 2018. Some played on both. So I think Brunson played on both. DiVincenzo played on both, but I think he was injured that first run. And the second time in 2018, he was the most outstanding player of the Final 4. So you're 100% right. There's something there. It's not just coincidence. These guys know how to play. They learned how to play under a great college coach. Yes, everything you said, I agree with.
And it's translated in the NBA big time.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know that you're still scratching your head about why the Mavs let him go, but that's history right there. I mean,
that's history. That's history.
That is one of the biggest moves the Knicks have made in quite a while, to be honest with you. Now, want to go back to Josh Hart.
Who's the best free agent the Knicks have ever signed? I think you could say it's Jalen Brunson.
Oh, absolutely. This hands down. And now that's a generational thing that I know about. And then, the free agent thing, I've been starting to cook up more when I see the NBA. But no, Brunson is really brought to the forefront for the Knicks. Now, you mentioned Josh Hart. Did last night's 3 not remind you of what he did against the Heat last year? That big three against the Heat. It reminded me of that moment exactly.
I would say I would agree with you without a doubt. And he's an up and down, outside shooter. But I'll tell you one thing, man. That guy, you want a guy like that on your team. Most of the time, guys like that come off the bench and play 25 to 28 minutes a game. They don't start, but they help you win series, have successful seasons, win championships. He starts. And, of course, Randall being hurt, obviously, is one of the reasons. And by the way, I think, and I'm not trying to denigrate Julius Randle, maybe the Knicks are better off, and I know I don't want to say better off, but there's just more ball movement with the way the team is now. So,
and Obi is always, Obi has been a huge part of this as well. The guy's been on and off healthy this year, but that trade, another big trade, maybe one of the best trades in Knicks history also.
Again, yeah, it's an excellent trade. Obviously, the best trade in Knicks history was getting Dave DeBusschere back in Christmas week of 1968. He changed everything. He was the missing piece, very much like Gary Carter was the missing piece for the Mets in '85, if you want to compare sports. But Anunoby, that trade, spectacular trade for the Knicks. And ironically, it's going to be Siakam and Anunoby who on Toronto who are going to be playing against each other in this series. And that this should be a good series. I mean, it's Indiana has a lot of firepower. They like to push the ball up court. They're well coached by Rick Carlisle. Carlisle obviously has won a championship when he was with Dallas. He's a tremendous coach. I knew him when he played and was an assistant coach on the Nets. You knew right away. You knew back then that the guy had coaching potential, and he's done a great job. The Knicks are going in. I'm surprised. They just a little while ago popped up on my iPad about the betting line on the series. The Knicks are a solid favorite. To me, this is another toss-up series. But Vegas right now has Knicks as a pretty solid favorite. So we'll see. But just putting a wrap on last night's game, and this is from a Sixer point of view, Tobias Harris, you took 2 shots with your team on the line, your team's season on the line, you took 2 shots. I mean, for all of, Embiid, who dragging one leg, couldn't jump. You didn't help him at all. And Embiid played his butt off. I mean, come on, Tobias Harris. $40 million a year? When they pay you $40 million a year, they pay you for games like last night. And you went into the witness protection program.
Yeah, and actually, I thought the Knicks did a better job of clamping down on Maxey, right? They didn't really let him have that open shot all the time like he had who could have thought a half-court shot in Game 5? Yeah. But, come on now.
Mm-hmm. And the Knicks did focus on Maxey more. But, again, look at the series. You had guys like Maxey who scored 47 points in Game 5, and it was spectacular, 46 or whatever it was. Then last night he really couldn't hit a shot. Yeah, he got some baskets late in the game. But if he had his game on, they might have been up by 15 and it might not have come down to the end. So, again, I think he's a terrific player. But, again, he let them down last night. But, like I said before, we saw Josh Hart and DiVincenzo, who was in the shooting slump until last night. So you don't know from game to game, in a series like that. But this Indiana series should be interesting. Obviously, the Knicks and Indiana have a history, but they haven't played in so long. And most of the guys on the Knicks and Pacers have no idea who Rick Smits and Reggie Miller and Charles Oakley and Derek Harper are. So it's almost like.
Does Oakley's ban get lifted for this series just as a homecoming? Really,
I don't know. You're going to have to call James Dolan.
I tell you what, it's going to be a wild series because Obi Toppin's going to have a homecoming of sorts because he's going to come back as a Pacer. That'll be interesting. But Tyrese Halliburton is the guy for the Pacers.
He's the guy. Yeah.
It's funny, those in the Northeast may not know all about the Pacers because who watches them on a nightly basis, right? But I'm sure you have some insights that we may not have. So what's your scouting report, Lou?
No, well, Halliburton is a fantastic player. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And obviously, it's going to be Halliburton and Brunson. Halliburton and Brunson. I don't think they'll be guarding each other, but we'll know that early in game one. They have a good team and they have a good bench. The Pacers led the league in bench scoring this year, almost 47 points a game, 46.8 per game. So that's something to look out for. The key thing is those little things that the Knicks get, those loose balls, those offensive rebounds. The Knicks are a great rebounding team. And again, look at Hartenstein. Hartenstein is underrated. I mean, I'm not saying that anybody's going to confuse him with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar or Olajuwon, but the guy is more than just a plug-in.
Absolutely, he is. He's part of the heart of this team. That's for sure. All right. Well, one of the series I want to talk about, and obviously we get to the West, but we all knew Denver was most likely going to beat the Lakers, and they did. We all knew. Well, actually, we didn't really all know the Bucks were going to lose like that. But I got to say, the parallels between Doc Rivers losing and the Sixers losing, it's almost like maybe Rivers wasn't the problem for the Sixers. I don't know, but it's just amazing. He was also knocked out the same round as his former team. I thought there was a bit of a parallel there.
Well, Doc Rivers, I'm not the biggest fan of Doc Rivers, but it's coaching. But I got to give him a 100% pass on this Indiana series. He didn't have Antetokounmpo for 1 second of this series. He's the second or third best player in the NBA. And he didn't play 1 second. And Damian Lillard played half the series. So on this series, he gets a pass. But the last 39 games of the regular season, the Bucks were 19-20 after Doc Rivers took over. It's going to be a very interesting summer for the Milwaukee Bucks. And I don't know this from anybody. This is just my observance. And I know he just signed a long-term deal with the Bucks. I wouldn't be surprised if Antetokounmpo says, "Hey, trade me." I don't know. Nothing. I haven't heard from any of my NBA friends. This is just me, my observation. I know how some of these NBA guys are. I could be wrong. I'm just throwing it out there. This is just my observation. So
could be something to that. Now, I guess we could talk about the West while I have you, because obviously it seems like the Lakers all of a sudden are in turmoil, right? So they fire their head coach, 4 head coaches, since LeBron came over? I mean, this is beyond absurd. Something, there's pulling the strings, and then there's LeBron pulling the strings. It's getting annoying to me personally, Lou.
Well, I agree with you. And it's not only a LeBron problem. We've seen this in other situations in the league many, many times. Again.
Well, Durant sort of had the control over the Nets for a while, right?
Yeah, but again, as I said to you in the past, Steve Nash was picked by Sean Marks. That I know, and now that's starting to come out and I knew that for 3-4 years ago, and I saw it recently in a post. So now that's starting to come out how Sean Marks wanted Steve Nash, but the players do have an influence. The players do have an influence, and Alex, when you're paying these guys so much money, and I don't know if you saw the story, but the NBA in this new in this new media rights agreement that they're going to have, apparently they already have a deal with Amazon. We don't know the details of the deal, but it's apparently a done deal or 95% a done deal. Apparently, with ABC and ESPN, it's a done deal. NBC has allegedly offered the NBA twice what TNT for the TNT package offered. They offered $2.5 billion, and the current package is half of that. I don't know. It would be a shame if just because we're so used to the NBA on TNT, but that they're going to take the most money. But the point that I'm trying to get to is, remember, the collective bargaining agreement, the revenue sharing with the players. You're going to see a $95 million or $100 million a year player in the NBA in the next 5 years. It's going to happen. There's $65 million players now. Lillard's making $62 million. And what did he do for the Bucks? Nothing. But this is going to happen. And that's why when you're making an investment like that, and I know LeBron is one of the greatest of all time, but just make LeBron the coach if that's the case.
And you know what? He might be a good head coach. I don't know. And maybe amazing that would be him coaching his son. That would be kind of interesting if the Lakers went that direction. It won't happen, but basketball enthusiasts can dream. All right, 28 years in the league as an executive, Lou. What stands out to you about this playoffs, maybe, that and the NBA playoffs overall as you've evolved? Because I always bring on for the history portion of all this stuff. So tell me about the evolution of these playoffs every year. Anything different from this year than maybe years past that you've noticed?
I have. And thank God for the Knicks-Sixers series. Yes, I know they were both floor teams, but they played compelling games. And that was the most important thing for the first round. You look at all these other playoff series. There was route after route. Cleveland and Magic. It hasn't gotten a lot of airtime. Most of the games have been put on NBA TV, but the first four games were routes. It was the other night. It was a 1-point game, but that's what has opened my eyes in this playoff series. Most of the games have not been compelling. The Clipper game on Sunday against Dallas, Clippers went up by 24-25, and Dallas came back and took the lead. The Clippers eventually won it, so that became a compelling game right at the end. But it has not been a compelling first round. I don't know if that's because teams, and that's why I give the Knicks an advantage in a lot of these situations. They didn't take time off for rest management. Their players always played. Even that last game of the season against the Chicago Bulls, when everything was locked in, they went to overtime, and the Knicks played guys 45, 46 minutes. So I think that continuity that the Knicks have compared to some of these other teams makes a difference. That's why I think some of these games are just blowouts. And you never saw blowouts like that. So that has caught my eye. And if you want to go back like to the end of the Knicks game last night, or not even in the last 6 minutes when the other night when the Knicks went up 3-1, and the Sixers couldn't score for the last. They were 0 for 11 down the stretch, the last 6 minutes and 2 seconds. Not only offensively, defensively, the Sixers were clueless. Even last night we saw that. And then, like I said, in the series this close, every offensive and defensive possession means something. So maybe because Embiid only played 43 games, they didn't have the continuity, but Embiid's been there 10 years. Yes, I know he's probably played 60% of those games, but what's been eye-opening in the first round. Look at the Suns and the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves put on the route. 4 games. It was non-competitive. The Suns with Kevin Durant, with Devin Booker, with Bradley Beal, all 3 of those guys are making around $50 million each. You talk about a disaster. That's a disaster.
No, it is, and it is disappointing because Phoenix was supposed to be one of those teams really at the top of the conference, and the 8 years and all that other stuff. I thought they were going to evolve from that, but Timberwolves, in general, it just seems like they've had a lot of issues. And that's another team that hasn't been healthy all year, right? So it's been on and off kind of injury prone for the Suns, or have they been healthy most of the year?
Well, no. Well, the Suns, I mean, obviously in the NBA, there's real injuries and there's fake injuries. You know, guys not playing for 3 games because of, and they'll say that he has a bruised calf, but that's okay. Michael Jordan never took off for a bruised calf, but that's a whole nother story. But the Timberwolves have had injuries. I mean, they lost Karl Anthony Towns, and they actually lost their coach the other night, who had a torn patella tendon when his own guy, Mike Conley, who's done a great job for the Timberwolves as a point guard, rolled into him on the bench, and Chris Finch had to get needed an operation. The Timberwolves are going to. This Timberwolves Nuggets series are going to be interesting. You see, the Nuggets aren't as good as they were last year because, and we said this before, because they're not as deep as they were in the past. So this is a series to keep an eye on, and I think the Knicks and the Pacers series is a series to keep an eye on. I think all these games are going to be compelling, and I think as we move on, these games will get more compelling. I can't see Boston and Cleveland or Boston and the Magic being compelling. That's just me.
Round 2 will be fun. Lou and Ariel, thanks for joining me today on the Alex Garrett Podcast Network.